and welcome to another live stream with the IELTS Grind. So hopefully everybody can hear me, and if you're in the chat, just say hello. So if you're joining us for the first time, just a few things to get you up to speed. So we're called the IELTS Grind. My name's Phil, and we go live fairly often. So if you come to our website, IELTSGrind.com, and click on live stream schedule, you'll see our upcoming schedule. So we can see that today is Wednesday. It's me, Phil, and we're talking about task 1 today, in particular static data. And you can see the rest of the schedule coming up. The thing to be aware of is the time is based on where we are doing our live streams from, which is Taipei in Taiwan. But you can see the time that it is now, 8 o'clock, and compare it to the time where you are. So the other thing to know is when you join us for a live lesson, if you come to the page and you click on live, it means that it will be synced to when I'm live, so you can interact. You can say, for example, hello in the chat, and I will say hello back. So make sure that you watch us live so you can interact. Okay, so today we're talking about a particular question, and what I'll do is make sure that I'm nice and zoomed in so that everyone can see this. So let's zoom in a little bit. Maybe that's a little bit too much. Okay, so this is the question that we're looking at today. Right, so yeah, if you're in the chat, don't forget to say hello, and if you'd like to give us a nice little like, that would also be very useful to us. Right, so the plan today, we're going to analyze this essay, and depending on how many people join me live, we will actually do some writing. So if you give me as much interaction as you can, that would be perfect. So just while we're waiting for other people to join, back to our schedule. So we're scheduled until this Saturday, and then coming up for the rest of July, what we are going to do is to give you a live course, basically. So each week we'll have a different topic theme. We will be covering all aspects of the test, and we have the plan to provide you with live mock speaking tests every week. I'm going to do a live mock speaking test tomorrow. I've slightly changed the routine. Tomorrow, on Thursday, I will be back doing live speaking tests. And what we are also planning to do is give you access to a full IELTS exam each week that you can do at home, but under timed conditions. So this is something we are working on for next month. So if you join us for our live streams every single day, you're going to learn a lot, and it's going to help you with your IELTS journey absolutely for free. So this is our plan for the rest of July. We're going to be updating our schedule. So if you're joining us in the chat, say hello. Don't be shy. I'm here to help. The other thing that you guys should know is if you look at the top of the screen, it says submit an essay. And there's an email address, corrections@theieltsgrind.com. So this is a free service that we offer. You can get your essays corrected online, live, for free. We will look at your essay, give you lots of feedback, and give you an estimated band score. If you don't have any questions to write about, send us an email and we will give you some questions as well. So that's a full service. Get your task 1 and task 2 essays corrected for free for the live stream. Okay, so that is enough stalling. I'm going to crack on with this, and as people join me, they can comment. Don't forget that you can follow along. I've put the link to this document that we're looking at. It's in the chat. So the voice is too quiet, Raghav. You're not able to hear me? The voice is See if I can talk a little bit closer into the mic. Tell me how that is now. Testing. Can you hear me now? Maybe I was a little bit too far away from the microphone. Okay. So the question for today. The bar chart below shows drivers in different countries and the ones with points on their licenses due to driving offences. Should be an S. Oh, sorry, driving offence. I don't need to correct that. It was correct. It's the same level. Let me check my volume. It's the same level. Oh, it sounds okay on my phone. I have to turn up the volume perhaps. Let me just bump up the volume a little bit. Testing. Testing. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Okay. I hope I don't have the same issue that Michael had the other day with his microphone. Okay, so let's read that again. The bar chart below shows drivers in different countries and the ones with points on their licenses due to driving offence. Summarize the information by selecting and reporting the main features and make comparisons where relevant. Okay, and this is the data. So again, if you cannot see this clearly on screen, I can perhaps zoom in a little bit. Okay. So I will just look at the data very quickly. So you can see there are two colors, blue driver with points, red driver without points, and you have France, USA, UK, Indonesia, and Costa Rica. So Raghav, if you can see that, let me know if that's clear enough on screen for you. And I want you to look at the data and to start thinking about the numbers and what you can see. What do the numbers mean, and what is represented here? So let's just consider that for a moment. Then we're going to move on to some questions to make sure that everyone understands. Okay, so while we're thinking about this, the questions I want you to think about are: what is the bar chart about? When did it happen? And what grammar tense will we use? Okay, what is the bar chart about? When did it happen? What grammar tense will we use? So I'll put the chart back up so we can have another look at it. So what is the bar chart about? When did it happen? And most importantly, what grammar tense are we going to use? Okay, so just while you think about that, I'd like you to, in the chat, put down your answers. So, briefly, what is the bar chart about? Okay, so let's go through those questions then together. So I'll talk to you, Reghav, because you're very you're chatty. I like chatty people. It's excellent to have engagement. So Reghav, what is the bar chart about? If you had to summarize in a few words, what are we focusing on here? What's the big topic of this bar chart? And I do see your answer about the last question about grammar tenses, and we'll talk about that in a moment. But first, what's the topic? And even if it's obvious to you, remember the arts examiner is an incredibly stupid person. So you have to explain everything to them very, very clearly to help them out. So it's always a good idea to go through these basic questions yourself so that you can explain it to the examiner, who is, as I said, incredibly stupid. Without points on what? So the bar chart is about driving licenses and points. And in this case, points mean that you've done something wrong. Now, this is really from the British way of thinking, okay? Because in the UK, we start off with a clean license, a clean driving license. And if you do something wrong when you're driving, you get a point. But I know that in places like France, you start off with 12 points and you lose points as you do things wrong. So this is really from the UK perspective. So those with points, they're the ones that have done things wrong, okay? So that's important to realise. When did it happen? Now this is a very important question. So Raghav, looking at the bar chart, when did this information happen? When did it happen? Now that is a trick question, or a tricky question. But can you answer, when did this happen? And I'm not just talking to Raghav, it's just, he's my friend, he always talks to me in the chat. If anyone else would like to tell me, when did this happen? You're more than welcome to put your answer in the live chat. I'm reading it as we go. But Raghav, if you want to answer as well, that's absolutely fine. And as I said, this is it's a trick question. When did this happen? And we're looking at the bar chart on screen. When did it happen? Okay, I will reveal the answer in 3, 2, 1. When did this happen? Looking at this bar chart, we don't know. The reason we don't know is, if I go up to the question as well, it says the bar chart below shows drivers in different countries and the ones with points on their licenses due to a driving offence. It does not anywhere give us a date. Okay, all it tells us is the countries and these numbers, which are percentage of population who drives with points on their licence, so those with and those without. So when did it happen? We don't know. So this tells us that it is static data. Static data means it doesn't move. It's not change over time. Now, if we had a line graph or we had bar charts in different years, this would be change over time. Okay, so we have bar chart, we have static data, or we have change over time. Okay, I sometimes call it dynamic data, but change over time is better. Now, this is not change over time. Okay, so this immediately tells us the grammar tense that we need to use. Okay, with change over time, we're very much talking about trends, and it normally involves trends that happened in the past, perhaps are relevant to the present, and sometimes predictions for the future. But this is static data. So what grammar tense do we use? Well, for the most part, this is telling us that these numbers are generally true. Okay? So when it's generally true or a fact, we use which grammar tense? Now, it's not present perfect, because for it to be present perfect, we would need to have something a bit like this. Okay, so if this is now, oh no, now, not no, now. Okay, so present perfect, you would have an action sometime in the past before now. For example, I have just been stopped by a copper. That's a policeman or woman. So I've just been stopped by a copper. So this is me saying this now. I've just been stopped by a copper, and 5 minutes, an hour ago, whenever, not important, but sometime in the past, the policeman stopped me. They may have given me a ticket, and in between the moment they gave me the ticket in the past, so this is all past and this is present, so in between this moment and now, nothing has changed. The result is the same. I have got a point on my license here. I have got a point on my driving license. Oh, yeah, I've got a point, let's say. Oh, it's gone. Oh, it's gone all. My past is too long. I'm trying to get it on. I've got a point. Okay. It's gone too far. Okay, let's do that. Oh, simple technology. Okay, I've got a point. So this would be present perfect, but we want to talk about facts, and for facts we use present simple. Okay, so generally for static data you're going to refer to it as a fact, as it being always true, where you'll use the present tense. Okay, yeah, so present simple particularly. We wouldn't necessarily use present perfect because we don't know if it's changed. We don't know when it happened, okay? So we can't really refer to it like that, okay? Now, if you stick around for my model answer, you'll see how I do fit in some more complex grammar. And you'll see that if you come and look at the document, okay? But let's crack on. So the chart is about driving and getting points, and it's about percentage of population. Why is that a question mark? Boom, boom. It's static data because we don't know when it happened, and the grammar tense is going to be present simple because it's a fact. It doesn't tell us when it happens, so this must be generally true. Okay. Now, it is logically true that they collected this information in the past, but they don't give us a date. So there's no date, in which case we use present simple. Okay. So if there's no date, so no date, as in a year, not as in you don't have anyone to go out with on Friday night. No date equals present simple, or at least present tense. Oh, there we go. Oh, I've done it again. There we go. Excellent. Present tense. So it could be simple, it could be continuous. Okay, on to the next little part. So planning. So we have our data, okay? And I'm going to zoom out just a little bit so we can have a little bit more on screen. So it's the same old questions as we always want to ask ourselves. What are the biggest numbers? What are the smallest numbers? What are the same numbers? And then after we've got all that, we're going to think about what are the trends, okay? So looking at the data, everyone who's in chat, I can see we have quite a few people in the chat, so don't be afraid. Make sure that you are watching it live by, you click on the video, go to the old video and click on live. You'll have it in sync. Okay. So looking at this chart, what are the biggest numbers? Now, we do have two kind of groups. We have drivers with points and drivers without points. So for each group, what are the biggest numbers and which countries do they link to? Okay, so hello, welcome everyone to the chat. What is the answer? What's the biggest number in the bar chart that you can see on screen? Now, if you're struggling to see this, you can look in the description, and you can also look in the chat, and you can come and look at this Google Doc. Yeah, so Costa Rica. And Costa Rica is the biggest number. Costa Rica is the biggest number for drivers with points, okay? And the number, as you can probably see, is 81. What about the number without points? Which country and which number? The UK, yes, my homeland. And you can probably tell that I made this. I obviously think we're better drivers than everyone else. Yes, the UK we got 71%. So I should remember it's percent. Yeah. Okay, so the same thing. Let's get this down. Obviously, in the exam, I would probably just highlight it or underline it with my pen, okay? But here we're going to write it down. Hello, Nino. How are you? So looking at the graph here, what are the smallest numbers? Perhaps Nino can tell us. So the smallest number for drivers with points and the smallest number for drivers without points. What's the percentage and which country are we talking about? Yeah, so it's basically the same countries. That's right. So in this case, we've got the drivers without is now Costa Rica, and we've got 19%, and the drivers with points is now the UK with 29%. Yeah. Now, do we notice any do you mention, so you said 26 and 19, so we've got 29 and 19. So you would want to make sure you double check your figures before you write anything down. So you can do this after you proofread. So you can write your essay, and then when you have a number, you just double check. Now, you don't have to be 100% accurate. So what I mean by that is, if I'm talking about 29, I could say just under a third. So third would be 33.33%, right? So 33%. Okay. Now, that's okay. Just under a third. I can say that. But if you're reporting the percentage, I recommend you get the exact percentage. Okay. So that's what I mean by you can be inaccurate or just approximate compared to being 100% accurate. Okay, on to this question of the same. Were there any numbers which were the same? Now, there are kind of obvious ones, but same or similar. Okay, so we can definitely say Indonesia, which is a 50-50. That is obviously the same. But, I mean, are there any numbers which are approximately the same? Almost the same? Or very, very close? I don't know. Because what we're thinking about here is, how do we make links between the data? We're trying to compare them, and Indonesia is a very obvious comparison here. But are there any numbers which we could perhaps link together from different countries, from different categories of driver with and without points? So I'll give you an example of what I mean. So have a look at the USA and the UK. Now, for me, these would be very good countries to compare and contrast. Yeah, that's absolutely right, yeah. And I'm gonna absolutely butcher your name if I try and pronounce it. So I'll say Parma if that's okay. I don't know if this is your family name or your first name. You'll have to come on to the mock speaking test we're doing tomorrow. So tomorrow I'm going to be doing a live mock speaking test at 8 p.m. That's Taipei time, so it's 8:30 now. Come and have a live speaking test with me tomorrow and teach me how to say your name properly, because Michael and I, we're terrible. We can't pronounce names at all. We're just terrible. So I do apologise. Okay, yeah. So I think you're on the right track. So 31 for drivers without points from USA and 29 with drivers with points. That's so close. That's a good thing to compare. The same thing for 71 and 69. They're so similar. So that is something you can pick out as a good way to compare. So I'll put that USA versus UK. Okay, so that's something to remember. So now that we have the biggest numbers, we have the smallest numbers, we have similar or the same numbers, we're going to think about the overall trend. Okay, this is going to help us with the very first part of our essay. So looking at the data in very general terms, what does it tell us about drivers with and without points in these different countries? So just be very general, based on the biggest, the smallest, and the same numbers. So imagine if a friend was late for class, they were meant to study this chart last night, they didn't do it, and they are going to be the first one that the teacher asks, and you had to whisper the answer to them very quickly before they had to get up in front of the class and answer the question. What would you tell them? What is the trend? Comparing drivers and with and without points, and trying to put all of this information into just a couple of words. Do drivers have, generally in this chart, do people, drivers, do they have points or they don't have points? That's really the question we're trying to answer. If they do, okay. But if it's not the same for every country, what are the exceptions? So what do we think? If anyone can see any trend, I'll put that back up there. What do you think the answer is? How about we say this? Do most of the drivers in these countries have points on their licenses? Is that yes or no? Do most of the drivers have points? Yes or no? Put your answers in the chat to see if we're on the same page. So most, more than half, let's say. Yes, so it's France they do, USA they do, and Costa Rica they do. So obviously that means that the UK and Indonesia, it's the opposite trend. So the overall trend is quite simply most of the drivers have points. That is the point we're trying to get across, yeah? So if you keep it simple, then it's going to be much easier to write, okay? Right, so we've got that information. Now we've got to do some brainstorming, okay? So I'm going to zoom this out just a tad. So now that we've kind of got our plan, we know the general ideas, the data. What we've got to think about now is how are we going to rephrase some of these important ideas. So the question is, the bar chart below shows drivers in different countries and the ones with points on their licenses due to a driving offence, okay? So the key kind of words we've got here are things like driver, points, license or licenses, driving offence, okay? So these are the kind of words we're going to have to say time and time again. And if possible, we don't want to repeat ourselves too often. So here's the thing. We could say offence with an S or offence with a C. Now, that is just a difference in American and British spelling. And it makes absolutely no difference if you use British spelling or American spelling. I actually find myself using American spelling more and more, just because with my job sometimes I have to write in American English, and it's become a bit of a bad habit for me being British. So the thing is, if you chose to write offence with a C, you would probably have to use that spelling, so British spelling, throughout your essay. If you switch between American and British spelling, so if you, for example, spell offence with an S and then with a C in the same essay, that would actually be bad. That would be, it wouldn't be good for your lexical resource. So I wouldn't use a synonym with an S and a C. I would try and use a different word if I were you. So a driving license. Can we think of a complete phrase or another phrase part of this? Could we change one word from that phrase or something? Or maybe paraphrase it in a different way? So what do you need in order, what do you need to do in order to get a driving license? In most countries, what do you need in order to get a driving license? Because you're not allowed to just, when you're a teenager, you're not allowed to just get into a car and start driving it. Well, at least in most places in the modern age. You've got to do something before, you got to take a test. So pass a test. So this is not a synonym, but it's a way to paraphrase it. We could say, pass the driving test. We could say a driving something that starts with a P. From not driving papers, but very close. It's actually closely related to this word, permission. It's not permission, but it's related to this word. So if we take the first couple of letters, per. Well, a warrant is more for a police person. They can have a police warrant, which means they are allowed to come into your home and search it for narcotics or something like this, or an arrest warrant. They're allowed to arrest you. So you wouldn't have a driving warrant, but you might have a driving permit. This could be a phrase that we use. Generally in the UK we say driving license, but in the US they might say driving permit. Yeah, so these are some ways that we could maybe rephrase it. Pass a test, those that have passed a driving test, those that have a permit to drive, perhaps you could even say able to drive, the ability to drive. Although maybe they drive badly, but they have the ability to operate the vehicle. Yeah, so a driving offence. I like, Raghav, I like authorised to do something. Those authorised to drive. An endorsement wouldn't quite be the same thing. You could have, normally you have an endorsement, like an endorsement for a sports star. Yeah. So authorised. So a driving offence, a driving crime. Yeah, you might have a crime. And we may add to this, a driving crime wouldn't be the right collocation. Okay, so a collocation means words that naturally go together. Yeah. A felony. Yeah. Well, you could use this word, but there is a particular meaning with felony. And it does mean that you go to prison. Now, we could say that some people do go to prison if they have many points on their license. So I think this is okay. But just be aware that it has a particular meaning. And again, in American English, they use this word a lot. Whereas in the UK, it's generally we just say a crime, committed a crime. They have different degrees of crimes, whether they're ones that you go to prison for, or whether they sort of are, non-felonies basically. They're more like, I don't want to give away too many words actually, because we're thinking of what to say here. I don't want to let the cat out of the bag. Can we think of any other terms here for a driving offence? If you commit a crime, what do you do to the law? So this is not a synonym. Okay, yeah, so yeah, infraction I like. Yeah, so law breaking, to break the law, good. Demeanor, yeah. Now, there's demeanor is close. Oh, let me spell it right. Now, demeanor is more, for me, it's kind of behavior. But misdemeanor, this means breaking, doing something bad. To get a fine, yeah, because probably if you get a point, you've also got a fine that you have to pay. A sentence, this is more if they've gone to jail, to be sentenced to prison, sentenced to jail. Okay, we've got quite a good few words. How about driver? Yeah, jailing, excellent. Yeah, fine. I like that one. Yeah. I didn't say hello, Jolene. Hello. How are you? How about driver? Any other way of referring to a driver? Yeah, so illegal driving, illegal act, something like that. Yeah, we could say illegal, yeah. Any other, can we think of any terms for a driver? So here's a question. For car, okay, we used to have an old phrase, okay, motor car, a motor car, okay. Now, someone who drives a motor car is, so for example, someone who studies science. What is the job for someone who studies science? Yeah, so scientist and motorist, okay? So a motorist would be a good one. And if we go back to crime, what type of crime is it? If it's a motorist, what is the adjective of motorist? So we have driving offence, but motoring crime. Possibly we could say that. Yeah. So back to driver, motorist. So we can't say pilot, Raghav, because a pilot is someone who operates an aircraft, an aeroplane. So we don't say pilot. Now, a motorcycle, it's not actually, yeah, motorcycle, sorry. Oh, I can't see. I can't type. There we go. Motorcycle. So a motorcycle it's not an exact synonym for a car, but it's quite a clever word to recommend, Jalen, because it doesn't say. It says drivers. Okay, those who drive have points, and you need to have a driving license for a motorcycle as well, and you can still get points. So this could be another way to refer to that, and we could give it as an example. Those who have committed a crime, for example, on motorcycles. That's a clever way to do that. I think that's a good suggestion. It's not an exact synonym, but it's a good way to paraphrase it. What else? What's a general term for a car? Yeah, automobile. Any other terms? Well, vehicle is one that we could use. Now, if we talk about countries, any other phrases that we could use to talk about countries? Yeah, so for countries, a nation, definitely. A province. Well, a province is more an area within a country, I would say. And a colony, again, it's its own region, its own country, even, but it just belongs to a bigger country. Yeah, but yeah, definitely nation. We could, at a stretch, say regions, areas, around the globe. You know, these kind of phrases we could use. Now, for the countries themselves, we can actually, rather than referring to the UK, we can talk about the nationality. So we could say, for one, we should probably say United Kingdom to show that we know what the UK means. But we could also refer to British Isles in this case. We could talk about the British. We could talk about English if we wanted to say that it was the English rather than the Welsh or the Scottish who were the best drivers. But we could get around talking about the countries by going into nationalities, or if there's other phrases. So, for example, the USA, we could say North America. Now, obviously, the USA is not the entirety of North America, because we've got Canada and we've got Mexico. But you could say, parts of North America if you wanted to, or North American. Yeah, obviously we can refer to Americans if we wanted the nationality. So this is really to get you thinking about which words are you going to use and try and sort of not to repeat yourself too much. Yeah, and of course we can, it's got USA, we can say United States. So we show that we know what the acronym means. Okay, right. So what we're going to do now, because we're kind of pushing on for time, I'm going to show you the model answer that I have. Now what I'll do is I will copy down the entire question. So we have a copy of this. Put it down here. Okay. So don't forget, you can access this document by clicking on the description of this video. Okay. So let's remind ourselves. So the bar chart below shows drivers in different countries and the ones with points on their licenses due to a driving offence. Summarize the information by selecting and reporting the main features and make comparisons where relevant. Okay. So hopefully what we're going to do is we're going to concentrate on the fact that it's about driving and getting points, a percentage of the population. It's static data, so we should be trying to use present simple. Now I mentioned how I might be using some extra complex grammar to try and boost this, and we'll get around to that in a moment. The planning, we know the biggest numbers are Costa Rica and the UK for those with and without points, and the smallest numbers are the same countries but in reverse. And then the same numbers we spoke about places like Indonesia, and we said perhaps we'll highlight the UK and USA. And the overall trend is most drivers have points with some exceptions. Okay. Hello Naz, how are you today? Thanks for joining us. Yeah, I've tried to push back our schedule because I know that we get a lot of you guys from India joining us, and with the time difference it may not be great. So maybe in the future we can have these evening classes even later. That way maybe we're get everyone after they finish work or study or whatever whatever you're doing in the afternoons. But for now, let's go through my model answer. So I've written, the bar chart shows motorists who did and did not get prosecuted for motoring infractions in 5 different nations. Okay, so I've gone to rephrase motorists prosecuted for, referring to basically breaking the law, along with motoring infractions. And then, as you guys recommended, 5 different nations. Okay, so I've just gone, and if I put this side by side, you can see I haven't done much. The bar chart below shows, and I've said exactly the same thing. That's fine. Okay. Yeah, you're gonna lose marks, Naz. I'm gonna, even though I'm not gonna mark your IELTS test, I'm gonna tell them to knock off half a band score just for you being late this one time. Yeah, of course not. So I haven't changed that much, and so here in different countries with ones with points on their licenses due to a driving offence. Now I haven't specifically mentioned licenses, but prosecuted for motoring infractions, it's clear I'm talking about points on their license. Okay, it's very close. Okay, so overall, most of the countries have a significantly higher proportion of their driving population with demerits on their license, with the expectation. Oh no! Oh, I'm gonna leave that. That is terrible. That is bad proofreading, guys. I feel ashamed. Who can correct this for me? And this is absolutely not part of a stunt. This is me not proofreading my work. This is very bad. It's an almost perfect essay, and I've let myself down because I didn't proofread. Yeah. Oh no, terrible. So what did I mean? What have I not written correctly here? So I'll read it again. Overall, most of the countries have a significantly higher proportion of their driving population with demerits on their license, with the expectation of the United Kingdom and Indonesia. Oh dear. I'm going to blame this on the automatic spell check, even though it's my fault. Can anyone suggest which word I should have used? Exception. With the exception of the United. Oh dear. Okay. So would that matter too much for me? Maybe not. That might just be a slight slip, because I think with the rest of the sentence it wouldn't impede the meaning too much. But obviously, proofreading, this is a clear example of why we need to do it. Okay, let's see if I have any more mistakes. By far the worst offenders on the roads are Costa Ricans, who have a significantly more disproportionate ratio of delinquent drivers to model motorists. Okay, so by far the worst offenders on the roads are Costa Ricans, who have a significantly more disproportionate ratio of delinquent drivers to model motorists. So delinquent drivers, so to be delinquent is to do something wrong, yeah, and model motorists. Now, I've mentioned this before. Native speakers, they like to get poetic. And what I've done again is to use alliteration. Now, this is not something you must do, but it's something that if you can play around with the language, this could be something that really does separate sort of band 9s and band 8.5s, because you can even get an 8.5 with perfect grammar, no mistakes as I've made, but you might not get a band 9 because you're not quite using the language as a native would. And here I'm choosing my words carefully because it sounds nice. Delinquent driver to model motorist. Yeah, and this is a nice phrase. Disproportionate ratio. So a ratio, for example, 2 to 1. Disproportionate, not the same. Okay. Indeed, just over 80% of the driving population in this country have had a run-in with the traffic police. Okay. So, what I'm doing here is now I am reporting my numbers to back up what is my topic sentence. Okay, so indeed just over 80%. I'm not saying 81%, I'm saying just over 80. So I'm not being accurate with my data, I'm giving approximate numbers. And then the other thing I've done is in this country. So I didn't say Costa Rica, I said it in this country. So I'm referring back. And here, this Raghav is where I've put in the present perfect, okay, have had. So normally what I want to do is use present simple, because here I'm reporting facts who have a significantly. So this is present simple. But here, have had a run-in with the traffic police. This is using present perfect because I'm talking about an event in the past to have a run-in with the traffic police. A run-in, this is a good idiomatic phrase, which means to get a fine, to be stopped by the police. And I'm using this phrase, this grammar structure, to talk about the fact it happened in the past and it has a result in the present, the result being they're part of the 80%. Okay, so that's an example of how you can get more complex grammar into a task 1 where you should really be using present simple most of the time. So American drivers with misdemeanors, with a misdemeanor, outperformed, should be one word really, I'm sure, outperformed. Now here actually, looking at it again, probably it would be better if I said as a fact, outperform, okay, their French counterparts, with over 10% more of them committing offences. Okay, so the reason probably I should use the present simple, although for me as a native, saying outperformed, it just feels natural. I should probably use the present simple because I'm talking about a fact. It's true. Now, a good word, counterparts. French counterparts. So here we said drivers. And I'm using the word counterparts to oh dear. the frame, it's not moving. Oh, okay. How's that? Is it? Oh yeah, okay, I can see it moving. Oh, that's strange. I don't know what happened there. Okay. Okay, so hopefully now you can see what I was talking about. This would explain why no one was giving me corrections. Okay, sorry about that, Naz. Okay, so we went through and I've highlighted all the words. I was talking about this particular sentence here. American drivers with a misdemeanor outperform their French counterparts, with over 10% more of them committing offences. So we've got drivers, and I've used counterparts to paraphrase that. A counterpart means someone who is in a similar job or similar social position to you or the thing you're talking about. Okay, so I would say my American counterpart, that's Michael. He does the same job as me on these live streams. So meanwhile, their more road safety conscious compatriots represent just 31%, probably should have like that, and 42.5% of the driving population respectively. Okay, so here I've got a nice phrase that links the two sentences together. Meanwhile, there. So this is also very good. I'm running out of colours. Let's put that in that green. So there is referring to American drivers. Okay. Meanwhile, and French drivers who have points. Meanwhile, they're more road safety conscious compatriots. A compatriot is a person who lives in the same country as you. Yeah, compatriot. You might know the word patriot. Patriot is someone who is very keen on their own country and supports it. Compatriot is someone from your country. So here I've done that to link it together, and then I've given the numbers and used that famous phrase respectively, meaning 31% refers to American drivers and 42.5% refers to the French drivers. Okay. Right. Then, while most other countries saw a much higher automotive crime spree, the British public stood apart from their global neighbours, being the most sensible drivers by far. Okay, so this is a bit of a topic sentence. Okay, just under a third of all those who get behind the wheel in the British Isles were convicted of a motoring offence. Okay, so I just want to explain kind of the grammar here. Okay, because we've got a fair bit of past simple here. Okay. But when I refer to the numbers, just under a third of all those you get, oh no, again, who get? Terrible, terrible, terrible proofreading. Who get behind the wheel? So get here, I'm referring to the chart. I'm using present simple here. Then I go on to use past simple, were convicted of a motoring offence, because that definitely did happen before the data was collected. So this is kind of what I would do naturally. Okay, so I'm talking about general facts. Okay, when I introduce things, I'm using past tense because I'm referring to the action or the event when the crime took place. So logically that's past tense, but when I refer to the actual the figures, I go back to present simple. Okay, so this is how I'm kind of using a range of grammar, even though with static data we should refer to it in the present simple. Okay, and then I end with Indonesian drivers were also different to the greater driving community, as exactly half of them have never had a brush with the law. Okay, so have never had, again, I've slipped in some present perfect because I'm referring to life experience. In their life, this thing never happened. Okay, so now, unfortunately, if I had presented this to the examiner, I don't think, probably not get a band 9, just because a couple little mistakes. It depends, because if we go and have a look, lexical resource, okay, uses a wide, this is band 9, uses a wide range of vocabulary, very natural and sophisticated control of the lexical features. I think I did that with my delinquent drivers, my model motorists. Rare minor errors occur only as slips. Now, when I wrote, instead of exception, I said expectation, and instead of who, I said you. Would they be slips? I don't know. So maybe this would be more of an 8.5. Okay, never mind. It's still pretty high level though. So what I would invite you guys to do is to access this document, go to the description of this video, and have a look at this, read through this yourself, try and think, how did I lay things out? Notice how I have little topic sentences, and then I present the information. Because if you look at this chart, there's not actually a lot happening. So to actually get close to 150 words, what you may need to do is this: topic sentence, then talk about the numbers, and then perhaps a little bit more details of numbers. So this is a way to bulk up what you're writing. Okay, so that brings us to the end of the writing part. But if there are any questions, anything on the document that you don't understand, I'm sorry for that, the freeze where I must have had the document opened in 2 tabs or something. Yeah, so if there are any questions about this particular task, static data, do ask in the chat. But in the meantime, if you haven't liked the video, if you haven't pressed like, make sure you do that, because that is really the only way that other people can benefit from this live stream, and other people can see it. So help us with YouTube. And don't forget, tomorrow we're going to be doing the mock speaking tests. Okay, so I will be here tomorrow evening. So we've changed the schedule slightly. So I'm doing Thursday evening now, and Michael's doing Friday because I have an appointment on Friday. So we swapped days with me. So tomorrow will be the live mock speaking tests. Now, if you've not done that before, if you don't know what I'm talking about, this is when I'm here. I create a Zoom group or a Google Meet or something, and I actually speak to you live and give you a real mock speaking test. And then I will give you feedback, an estimated band score for each of the 4 marking criteria. And if you've never done it before, it's a really good practice, because people get very nervous about the speaking test, and you really shouldn't be, because to be honest, for the examiner, it's just work. It's like, like it's like they work at Starbucks or something. They're just making you coffee. Obviously they do a good job, but it's just a job for them. So once you get over that kind of fear, then there's really no issue at all. Okay, so we're still going, yeah. So before we end, if I can find the right tab. So if you would like to join me again tomorrow, if you've already done a speaking test, that's absolutely fine. We can do it again. If you've not ever done one before, just jump on the live stream tomorrow. I'll try and do as many as I can. We normally live stream for around an hour or so. So that means I could fit in probably 4 in an hour. Maybe slightly less if I give a bit more feedback. And if it's really popular, if we get a few more people, I don't have any plans tomorrow, so I can stay around for a lot longer. Right, so thank you very much for joining us today. Don't forget, if you know anyone that is studying the IELTS, if you're in any Facebook groups and people aren't answering their questions, you can send them here, because Michael and we're here to help. So thanks very much, guys, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.